Let's pretend you're a guinea pig. Not an actual guinea pig, but the test subject in a bold experiment that, if it works, could make you immortal. At the age of 75, you volunteer to have your brain transferred to a brand new body. And on the surface, the experiment seems to be a success. You're conscious, you can move the limbs of your new body, you can smell the formaldehyde in the lab, and your memories are intact. But something is missing, and you're not quite yourself. Could it be that the transfer of your gray matter was not enough? The truth is, there's another grayish matter in our bodies, one that resides deep inside our guts. It's the gooey muck of microbes that coats the wall of our intestines, which act like a second brain. Emerging studies show that gut microbes can influence personality and behavior in astonishing ways. You probably wouldn't be the same person without your microbes. Scientists refer to this collection of tiny critters living on and inside of you as your microbiota. There are trillions of microbes in your gut alone: bacteria, fungi, viruses, and protozoa. We should not judge these microbes by their size. Collectively, they outnumber you. There are slightly more microbes in your body than human cells making up your body. You're basically a mobile home to microbes, and their influence on our home can no longer be understated, given the enormous quantity of information they bring into our body. The human genome contains about 25,000 genes. Our microbiota adds an estimated 50 million more. We refer to those microbial genes in our body as the microbiome. As with many scientific discoveries, we first learned about the importance of the microbiome when something went wrong. After the introduction of antibiotics in the 1940s, some people developed what was called a superinfection, marked by massive inflammation of the gut and unrelenting diarrhea. The culprit is Clostridium difficile, vicious bacteria that are naturally resistant to most antibiotics. Clostridium is usually kept in check by the friendly bacteria in our gut, but those friendly bacteria are wiped out by an excess of antibiotics. So intestinal bacteria are kind of like guardians of the gut, fighting villains that invade our space. But what else might these bacteria be doing? This question prompted scientists to produce germ-free rodents, a revolutionary tool that has led to amazing discoveries. These mice or rats are born without any microbes, and surprisingly, they're scrawny and sickly and more anxious than normal, which tells us that the microbiome contributes to proper development, the immune system, even neurochemistry. The next quantum leap was when scientists took intestinal bacteria from healthy mice and put it into germ-free mice. Scientists have a less than glamorous term for this called fecal transplantation. The upshot is the germ-free mice became healthier after the gut was repopulated with bacteria from a normal mouse. Importantly, when these formerly germ-free mice gave birth, their pups maintained the donor bacteria, which is to say, the microbiome is heritable. In addition to mom's chromosomes, we get her microbes and the millions of genes they carry. To understand my enthusiasm for this subject, here's some of the most incredible things the microbiome can do. While we get our first microbes from mom, we get additional ones from our diet. Scientists wondered if different diets are associated with different microbiota. So they compared the microbiomes from kids in an Italian city who ate a Western diet to kids who lived in a village in Burkina Faso and ate a hunter-gatherer diet. The results showed a striking lack of diversity in the European microbiome. There were fewer species overall, and some species that disappeared entirely. When your mother said, "You are what you eat," she really knew what she was talking about. The microbiome in obese individuals shows the same pattern. decreased diversity with a lack of bacteria that digest fiber and plant-based foods, and an enrichment of bacteria that thrive on sugar and fat. Could these gut bacteria be sending signals to the brain that influence cravings? If you have a gut full of bacteria that need sugar and fat to grow, could they be manipulating you into eating junk food? Jeffrey Gordon conducted the definitive experiment linking gut microbes to the size of the gut. Gordon's team looked at identical twins discordant for obesity, which means one of the twins is lean and the other is obese. Now, how can this be if they have exactly the same genes in their DNA? Could the genes in their microbes possibly affect appetite? To test this wild idea, they fed intestinal bacteria from each twin to germ-free mice. Bacteria from the lean twin helped that scrawny germ-free mouse gain a normal amount of weight. Remarkably, bacteria from the obese twin caused the mouse to overeat and become overweight. When you ponder what you want to eat, be advised nefarious bacteria may be driving you to make unhealthy decisions, but you can take back control. We have the power to change our microbiome through diet and exercise. Studies show that diets high in fiber and low in sugar promote the growth of beneficial bacteria. These studies paved the way for many more microbiome discoveries, with the common thread that organisms receiving intestinal bacteria start to take on attributes of their donor. This could shape the future of medicine in unprecedented ways. Let me tell you about some of the examples I find most compelling. John Cryon showed that gut bacteria from a depressed person can make germ-free rats show symptoms of depression. They become uninterested in treats, don't socialize with other rats, and won't try to escape from a life-threatening situation, such as swimming out of a tub of water. Gut bacteria may also fundamentally alter personality traits. Stephen Collins showed that a strain of timid mice become brave when given intestinal bacteria from a more adventurous strain of mice. And the fountain of youth? Well, that might contain sewage rather than water, as gut microbes from young mice help aging mice live longer. The microbiome also affects our immune system. Our intestinal microbes co-evolved with us for millennia, but our modern diet and city life is profoundly different than our hunter-gatherer past. It's been proposed that this abrupt change in lifestyle has disrupted the harmonious relationship we've had with our microbes, possibly contributing to the dramatic rise in autoimmune and inflammatory disorders we see today. In support of this idea, it's been noted that people raised on farms have more diverse intestinal bacteria that appear to offer protection from asthma and allergies. These studies suggest that the composition of our microbiome is driven by our environment as well as diet. In the 1980s, musician Huey Lewis sang that he wanted a new drug, but what he might really have needed was new microbes. You're probably aware certain medications work for some patients, but not others. Turns out drugs can be processed differently depending on the types of bacteria in the gut. Immunotherapy is a type of treatment for certain cancers, but it doesn't work for everyone. Scientists were able to make immunotherapy work in melanoma patients who weren't seeing an effect simply by giving them intestinal bacteria from patients who responded well to the immunotherapy. Another new study suggests that the microbiome can affect motherly love. Janelle Ares found a particular strain of bacteria was able to erase the maternal instinct in mice. Mothers possessing these bacteria neglected their pups. Studies also show that children with autism often have a microbiome profile that is distinct compared to children without the condition. What happens when you put microbes from an autistic person into germ-free mice? The mice exhibit some symptoms resembling autism. They engage in repetitive behaviors and are less social. I could go on, but I think you get the idea. I think the only thing that hasn't been tried yet is whether microbes from a liberal can convert a conservative, and vice versa. What you might be wondering is how we can use this knowledge to better our lives. Is it possible to reshape or replace our microbiome? Earlier I mentioned the odious superinfection caused by Clostridium. Historically, Clostridium has been very challenging to treat, but fecal transplantation works 90% of the time. Patients can now take so-called poop pills or crapsules containing intestinal microbes from a healthy donor, and in many cases experience relief within hours. It's important to add that fecal transplants are not currently recommended to treat any other medical condition and may have a dark side, and no one wants to go up that creek without a paddle. There's a chance a lethal pathogen could be transferred to the recipient, and given the links between microbiota and disease, it may be possible to transfer undesirable conditions like depression or weight gain. Donor material must be carefully screened, and more research is needed to build confidence in the safety and efficacy of this promising procedure. Remember, your microbiome is a core component of a second brain. We need to approach treatments like a form of neurosurgery. Nonetheless, many people have already volunteered themselves to be guinea pigs to probiotics, pills that contain live bacteria and yeasts believed to promote good health. Research on probiotics is extremely complicated, which makes sorting out the hype from the reality very difficult. There are many different types and quantities of microbes in probiotics, and how they interact with the body can be highly individualistic, depending on a person's current microbiome, depending on their genes and their diet. It is likely that remodeling the microbiome will have to be tailored to each individual, like other forms of personalized medicine. As with vitamin supplements, the majority of studies suggest that probiotics confer no obvious benefit to people who are already healthy. Probiotics may relieve some specific intestinal issues, such as the GI distress caused by certain antibiotics. But other studies show they actually impair repopulation of the microbiome after a course of antibiotics. There is some evidence probiotics help with irritable bowel syndrome, but not enough for the American Gastroenterological Association to recommend them at this time. Some studies have shown that people taking probiotics experience elevated mood, less anger, and improved sleep. A recent review of 7 small studies supported the idea that probiotics may help ease depression a bit. These are promising preliminary findings, but more rigorous evidence is needed to support many of the claims associated with probiotics. And there may be some downsides. Some people experience brain fog and cramps after taking probiotics. There's also worry that they could introduce antibiotic resistance genes into your system. This is a largely unregulated industry in the US, which also raises concerns about the quality control of these products. Prebiotics may be the more sensible choice at this time. Prebiotics are foods that contain or support the types of gut bacteria we know to be good for us. We're talking about foods high in fiber and low in sugar. They include fermented foods, fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, and unsweetened yogurt. As Hippocrates advised, let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. The other sensible thing you can do is appeal to your government to increase biomedical research funding so scientists can better understand how to harness the power of microbes to treat disease and promote good health. This could lead to the discovery of specific bacterial cocktails that could augment treatments for a wide variety of medical conditions. I hope you leave this talk knowing that wherever you go, whatever you do, you're not alone. You carry trillions of microbes that are partners in life. Our microbiome helps shape who we are, and proper care of our microbial partners will promote well-being. Cultivate them the way you would a garden, and you're sure to have a healthy harvest.